and welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and video show which brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, and experience and wisdom from hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe so you won't miss a new episode. I'm your host, Frits Bussemaker, and today I'm delighted to have a conversation with Eric and Sasha Hathaway. Hey, Eric, Sasha, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Fritz.
Yeah. And briefly going to introduce the both of you, and very briefly, because I definitely want to talk about what you're doing and why you're doing it. Eric, you have over 30 years experience in almost all leadership roles I can imagine. You've been a CTO, COO, CEO, director with organizations large and small, and very much focused on change leaders specializing in organizational effectiveness. Sasha, you have a commercial and sales background, but you're also an entrepreneur, co-founder of NextGen and Efficiency First. So that is it for now. And I do believe, if I'm correct, this is going to be the very first dad-daughter interview on The Brand Called You. So, and for the audience, we've been in contact over the last couple of years, and I always have to ask which time zone you guys are in because it's almost never the same. And,
Currently in Peru.
and also, would you call yourself digital nomads?
I would say yes, although you just recently informed me of the term vagabond and some of the incredible historic meanings of the term vagabond. So either vagabond or digital nomad, I would say yes.
And for the audience, digital nomads almost self-explanatory, but vagabonds is also a term which Thomas Edison and Henry Ford and Firestone gave themselves when they were traveling around the States over 100 years ago. That's for later. So first question, where are you guys at the moment?
Currently in Peru. We've been spending the last month all along the coast north of Lima, both working, but also trying to find a balance of work and having fun. So we've been surfing and learning quite a few new water sports on the northern coast of Peru.
And where were you 6 months ago?
Where were we 6 months ago? I believe we
I
were in
was I
Indonesia.
was I was back in Montana and Sasha was in the Philippines at that point. And then 5 months ago, when I finally joined her on our second global venture, we met up in Indonesia and have spent the last 5 months, 6 weeks in Indonesia, a month in Sri Lanka renting a tuk-tuk, a month in South Africa driving the entire coastline from Johannesburg to Cape Town, and then another month in Peru.
Wow. Are we now talking about some very well-deserved R&R after a lot of hard years of work, or is this a lifestyle of how you want to live?
I would say this is a lifestyle. It started 2 years ago, and it was my first kind of remote job. And I looked at my dad and I said, "I love this remote work thing. I think we should go move to an island and live there." And so we picked up and moved to Panama a month later, and we realized very quickly that the lifestyle of travel and experiencing different cultures at the same time being able to work and kind of build and work on things that we're passionate about have been a beautiful intersection. And we've spent the last, I guess, almost 3 years now traversing the globe and working at the same time. And it's been, I don't think either of us could go back to a typical normal life, if you could call it that.
Yeah, and I think in direct answer to your question, we have many people say, "Oh, well, I won't bother you while you're on vacation." And we have to remind them, we're not on vacation. This is our life. This is how we work. This is our office. The globe is our office.
Good. Okay. Well, going to be two topics today. First of all, I want to spend a little bit more time on what it means to be a digital nomad, but also then on the type of work you do, because that's going to be just as interesting. I want to just continue with the digital nomad part for the next couple of minutes. How did that happen? When did you discover this is what I wanted to do? And Eric, I believe that started with you.
Yeah, I mean, I've been for the last probably 15 years, I've been working remotely as a consultant. And so the remote work thing for me has just always been part of my life. Although that was mainly based on the fact that my main goal in life has been to be a parent. So I wanted to have that additional time and that flexibility to be involved with my children. Um, I think I live the typical digital nomad, what you call, where you basically work from your home office, and then, you might go have a lunch or a breakfast, and then you come back and you're back in your home office. When I spent 12 years overseas early on in my career, and I love travel, I love the world. And when Sasha and I talked about moving to Panama, like she said 2 years ago, and we got there, I think we both realized, why would we stop now? Why would we contain ourselves to just our home as our office when this is our office? And so that's when it really kicked in again, where I said, hey, there's a lot of world left to see. And the technology that exists today, everything about being a digital nomad is so simple when you just take that jump and jump out there. And so we've been able to have an incredibly healthy balance of work and play and be able to travel at the same time. But it is not a vacation. It is truly, I mean, we've started two different companies and we continue to work on both those companies. So,
Okay. Sasha, you joined your dad on this big adventure. At least I think how a lot of people would see this. Um, oh, a couple of questions to introduce my next question there is, do you have any siblings? Where's your mother? Where's the grandparents? How do they view this, what you're doing?
Yeah, I have an older sister, and it's funny. She is just as successful and an amazing human being, but has a totally different view on passion, and she loves her corporate life. She lives in Seattle, Washington, and we brought her down when we first moved to Panama to be somewhat of a Sherpa for us and bring a lot of the stuff that we'd originally brought back and bring us backpacks to go live a backpacker, more digital nomad life. And within about a week and a half, I think she realized this is not the life for me. I love you guys. Go have fun. And I'm going to go back to my corporate job. And so it's this really beautiful kind of relationship because she's so incredibly happy for us. There isn't this jealousy of like, oh, Sasha and dad get to go travel the world and I'm stuck here. It's a very happy, content with we get to go live our passion and our dream, and she's doing the same. And so she's in Seattle, and my mom is in Seattle as well. It was a bit of a shock for her, I think, when I told her I was leaving and not coming home and gonna go travel the world. But she's taken it very well, and I talk to her every day, and she's incredibly happy for both of us.
Good. So it's working out definitely for the two of you. How lonely is this, given the fact that people who live in a particular place, not only do they work there, it's also where their social life is, where their friends and family are. How do you cope with that part of being on the road all the time?
I think it's interesting because I think people equate not living at home and having a stable base with loneliness. And I would actually almost say that it's the opposite. And I have created more connections, more friends, and felt more connected to a community than I have in my entire life. And it's interesting, Eric and I have found that about that 3 week mark when you're in one spot or one country is when you start to develop a community of people. Friends, you start to get recognized when you go to coffee shops, and you're surrounded by these people that provide this different outlook on life, and you get inspired both from a personal perspective but also a business perspective. And so of course I miss family, I miss friends, but the network that I've created and the friends that I've created across the globe has expanded tenfold. And so I can't say that I've ever felt lonely. I would say I felt more connected than I have in my entire life.
Same applies for you, Eric?
I would say yes and no. I think, my lifestyle is definitely not attuned to long-term relationships. So, but on the other hand, I am very happy, very secure, and very comfortable with my life. And to Sasha's point, I would never have had the opportunity to meet so many of the wonderful people that I've met around the globe from multiple generations, by the way, not just my generation, but Sasha's and everywhere in between. And so I would also agree it's not a lonely lifestyle by any means, but for those that I'm not married, obviously, and I don't have a long-term girlfriend, those are definitely things that, aren't attuned to this kind of lifestyle because it's take off for 3, 4 months at a time. So, but it's not lonely.
Oh, and by the way, I'm judging on very dangerous grounds, I realize, but the fact that you're both traveling together, uh, that also could have impact on the potential romantic life or not.
Go ahead, Sasha.
it
Great question.
it definitely does. I think I'm at a stage in my life where that's not necessarily what I'm looking for. I've become very content and happy learning more about myself. And, you know, I'm young, I'm an entrepreneur, and that's where I've decided to push my passions and my focus and my energy is on expanding my knowledge and learning as much as I can and meeting as many people as I can. And so there is a barrier, as Eric mentioned, this lifestyle and being in one country 1 month and across the globe the next month is not easy to find a romantic partner, but Eric and I have this conversation quite frequently, and I keep my hopes high.
Okay.
Well, and I will say on that, Fritz, it's interesting. As a father of a daughter, I think a lot of fathers are, you know, my daughter can't date, that kind of thing. Where we have really come to is more of a mutual respect friendship as well as a father-daughter. And, you know, Sasha is a beautiful young lady. She meets a lot of men, and I support it very much so. And so she does have a romantic life. She does have a dating life. And, you know, and myself, I do every once in a while. I think we're in South Africa and we both went on a date one night, funny enough. But so there is that romance and it is good. And there's a lot of men that chase her around, but I respect her for that and we each allow each other that space. So it's important that you do that as well.
No, I think it's good to discuss all aspects of life, not just the good side of, you could say, this lifestyle, but also, hey, what comes next. And do you, okay, well, you said for the near future, you're not going to go back to that more traditional life, but are you thinking about how does it look like long-term view? How does that look like?
Eric?
Yeah, I think for me, for me, my goals, I have people back in the States. I have parents back in the States and I have a home back in Montana. And, you know, I'm looking at this as a long-term lifestyle of 3 months in, approximately 3 months out. And I will be going back and forth. Our businesses are global. We want to develop them globally. We aim to have global offices and we're partnering with a lot of people or a lot of companies globally. And so we want to make sure that we have the ability to visit those people at the same time. And so we integrate that travel, our potential clients, our business. But at the same time, for me, it is important to be back home for a little bit every now and then. So I'm the 3 months in, 3 months out, and that, as far as I can see, for a lifestyle, it will go on until it ends.
Hey, a good moment to now switch to the business side, because what kind of business have you two developed that allows you to do this in a remote way you are doing this?
Go ahead, Sash.
So this all started again at kind of that 2 year mark, and obviously Eric's been involved in operations and the leadership side of things for 30 plus years, and I was lucky enough to be able to join him a few years ago. And the organization we were originally working for, we noticed that there were a lot of these core issues that we found in any industry across every business, and it's this: when businesses start to scale really quickly, things start to break down from an organizational efficiency side of things. So the cross-functional nature of businesses, the silos start to form, toxic leadership, and there's this really kind of cultural breakdown and organizational breakdown where we see there's tons of missed revenue opportunities, and these businesses that had so much potential are becoming that, you know, that another statistic on the failed startup wall. And so Eric and I really looked at this and we said things have got to change, because I remember I went to him one day and I said, "Is this how all businesses run?" And he goes, "You know what? Yeah." And I was like, I don't want to be a part of that if that's how it's going to be. And so we took that and we ran with it, and we built the first organization, which is called Efficiency First. And that's focused on that root problem. And so it's figuring out how can we measure that problem, what organizational efficiency, and it spans across alignment, people, processes, and leadership. And then take those measurements and that diagnosis and actually empower organizations to start solving these issues on their own. So no longer going after the Band-Aid fix or spending thousands of dollars on consultants or these external tools, and saying, hey, if you engage your teams, if you engage a cross-functional team and look at this from the bottom-up solution, you're actually going to drive more engagement. You're going to drive sustainable change. And you're going to start to be able to overcome these issues that become silent killers the minute you start to scale really quickly as an organization. So Eric, you want to go ahead?
No, I'm making me curious because the sweet spot is scale ups. That's what you're aiming for. Am I understanding correctly?
Yeah, I
Go ahead,
think
Eric.
that No, the early stage companies, they're so focused on finding money or getting sales in the door to prove their product market fit and that. And when you're 15 people, you're working together every day. And every CEO at that point is like, oh, I know my people, I know what's going on, we're doing everything great. When things start to really shift, I think, and we all know this. I mean, anybody that's been part of a business or started a business, when you move from 50 to 150 people in less than a year, if you go from 10 to 30 million, you're starting to really have that true product market fit. You forget about all that internal work. You start hiring, new people. You've got 3 or 4 executives. You've got 5 different teams in the organization. And you start to lose touch as a CEO. And all of a sudden, like Sasha said, those silos start to form. We've all seen it. The cross-functional side, marketing and sales aren't communicating. Customer satisfaction, it was reducing. You got employee turnover. So that piece of the puzzle is really where we focus, and it can be up to that sort of 250 to 500 mark. Once you get above that, you become more of that sort of grown up, moving into that enterprise category. And if those problems exist, they're so deep that it becomes such a major change management issue that it's just much bigger than where we prefer our focus, which is really preparing those companies that are now scaling and moving into that ramp stage that we feel is so important to change this dynamic.
Okay. Still going back to where you're coming from, is it relevant when you do the work you're doing that you're not based in an office just around the corner? Is that of influence to how they treat you as a consultant?
Yeah, I think, one of the important things about what we do is we're not, as Sasha mentioned, we're not there to fix the problem. We think that sustainable long-term change, you have to change it from within. And to be honest with you, you've hired the people, you hired them for a reason to come in and do the job. But so many times you feel like maybe they're not doing the job or you don't understand why things aren't going wrong. So you step back in. This is about stepping back. This is about truly leading people and getting the people that you brought into your organization to engage themselves, to become ownership in their role specifically, to where now that increases. I mean, Gallup just came out with a report where 35% engagement across companies in the States. That's tragic. If you can just get people to feel ownership. And so we're there to help measure it and help guide the organization into fixing their own problems. Sort of like, we align it to, you can hire a health coach, but if you don't do the hard work, you're not going to get healthy. This is the same type of thing. We want to shift the puzzle a little bit to stop having organization pay other people or put band-aid fixes in place, but to really dig inside and say, we can fix this. That's the only way we're going to get that engagement number to come up, that productivity number. So that allows us to be completely remote to be able to do this because we're a measurement tool. We're not the actual fix, although we do have some guidance to that.
Okay, got that. So if your workspace is literally the globe, may I assume that also your potential market is literally that same globe? And if yes, how then do you market yourself that organizations are able to find you?
Yeah, it is. I would say that's a perfect way to put it. And it's been fascinating as Eric and I have traveled. The business connections and opportunities we've gained from that is immense because we've talked to people in Sri Lanka, in South Africa, in Indonesia, and these issues span across the globe. It's not focused on, a tech company in the United States. It's across industries. We've seen it in healthcare, we've seen it in education, we've seen it in law. And so it's been able to, when we talk about what we're doing and the issues we're trying to address, the recognition between CEOs is like, yes, I understand that. I'm struggling with that. I'm feeling those same things. And so it's been really fascinating because it's allowed us to expand our markets and tap into, for instance, the Sri Lankan market where our focus is right now, in the South African market. And so it's from a marketing perspective, it's hard because it's such a broad audience and there's not this like niche target and niche audience that we can target, but it relates to such a broad range of people. And so it's been really trying to dial in our messaging around, hey, this is how it affects you. This is what you're feeling. We recognize that and we can help with that. Eric, you want to add to that?
Yeah, and I would say one more thing. One of the things we really realize, I think we get caught up in the US that we are the leader of and we are the leader of the financial free world, if you want to call it that. But these emerging economies, these economies that are developing are moving so quickly right now. And the entrepreneurial spirit that is happening, the startup accelerators, the movement that's going on, there's so many companies that are now going through this stage around the world that we're finding being able to move around in these countries, meet these additional people, meet this expanded marketplace is so much more dynamic than trying to do it through social media. And although we want to do it that way as well, but to be able to have those personal connections in some of these countries are like, oh wow, this is really interesting. So it's been very beneficial.
Okay. And are these personal connections really meeting them face to face or also just meeting online?
Both.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, we'll meet someone and it's funny, as Sasha said, we'll meet someone in a coffee shop or we'll end up in a meeting in a university, and we can come back to that with a second business that we've got. And someone will say, oh, I know this person. And all of a sudden, that person will come over for dinner and you'll meet them. Or they'll say, hey, you've got to meet this guy. And we'll jump on a Zoom and we'll meet that guy. So it really is a mixture of both. And I think, a lot of people, and especially our age, Fritz, we look at Zoom as, oh, it's not in-person communication. And I'm starting to argue the fact that it is just as in person. It's nice, but it's no different at the end of the day. You're talking with someone, you're getting to know that person. And so that we found that that's been almost synonymous with in person at the same time.
It's going to be a situation in the future that you have to eat your own dog food. Are you planning to grow? Or are you going to just keep it as is?
Eric?
So
Okay, sorry, Fritz, can you repeat that question one more time?
Well, now it's just the two of you.
Mm.
Assumption. Suppose that at a certain point, okay, we need more people to do this. We need to expand. We need to grow. At a certain point, you might need to eat your own dog food.
that's
Yep.
that's a great segue, and I'll let Sasha run with that one because it's a phenomenal segue.
Yeah, so Eric and I thought quite frequently about that, and one of our biggest passions is figuring out a way to give back and impact those around us. And so when we thought about how can we grow this sustainably, but at the same time bring in this aspect of let's spread the opportunity, because I recognize as a young entrepreneur, the opportunities I've had and the fact that I can travel the globe and work remotely is incredible. And I want to figure out how can I spread that to not only my friends back in the States, but the people that we meet across the globe with these amazing entrepreneurial minds that have that same passion and that drive for life. And so Eric and I went down this path and we created the second business, which is an internship program. And so we partner with universities, with businesses, and provide kind of a leadership development internship program. And those interns come and run efficiency first. And so from day one, it's not your typical shuffle papers, we're going to tell you what to do. It's a very proactive approach from the intern side of things. So they come in and, instead of providing their current resume, they provide what their resume should look like in a year. And they come in and say, this is my passion, this is where I want to go. So if this is my 12-year goal from a career perspective, what do I need to do in the next 6 months from an internship side of things to get there? Great, write out that 30, 60, 90, 6-month plan and now start to implement that. And so we actually have an intern running our HR side of things for Efficiency First. We have another one that just come in and is helping from a product development standpoint. Another intern that's also on the product development side of things. And they come in from day one and they're building a strategy. They're starting to implement that strategy, and within 3 to 6 months, leading teams, leading people to get them that experience and that opportunity that as a young entrepreneur or even middle managers within companies is so difficult to get, especially from a remote perspective right now. And so that's where we look at growing this at the same time being able to give back and spread this. And we've had such amazing opportunities in these countries with these universities where we meet students that are like, this is such a cool opportunity. I want to be a part of this.
Nice. And does that also mean they're going to travel the world just like you, you two, or not?
It's a great, it's interesting. Sasha mentioned universities. We do partner with the universities, but we've also met people along our travels who are that 25 to 35-year-old that are just looking for a new direction. They've maybe been digital nomads for a while, but they want something more business-wise. And so our head of HR is a graduate that he's based out of the States, but he wants to travel and do the same kind of lifestyle, and he runs all of our people side of things. The developer that we just hired on, we met him in South Africa, and he's out of Cape Town, and amazing young man, 27 years old and graduated, but just wants to find a new direction. So he's now running our development. We met a young lady out of Indonesia who's very passionate about nonprofit development. And so she's helping us develop the nonprofit side, because the Next Gen Interns is a nonprofit. so that we have the ability to, we want to give back everything that we bring in to next gen interns to the interns long term. So the idea is to hopefully have paid interns. Right now, it's basically unpaid. And so I think the majority, as Sasha said, the goal is to be able to provide the ability. You don't have to travel if you don't want to, but to just even provide the ability to be able to stay out of these corporate offices and really go meet people, experience the world, see the world. Because as Sasha said, her goal is to bring that to other people. My goal is to shift your and I's generation, Fritz, that we haven't done a great job of preparing this world for the next generation. Let's put it fairly. I think we have a lot of great people trying, but we've not done a similar job. So I want to give back and really provide a platform that allows these young kids or even middle age to see the world and understand it's so much bigger than you can possibly imagine. And we are so much more the same than you can possibly imagine. And there's so much opportunity out there if we can just expand that to the masses.
Great. Hey, good. Hey, Trigger, how do you then define your success in this context? And I would like each of you to answer this question.
Yeah, that's a big one. I can almost give a little bit of from my side. I'll try to keep it short. I'm an odd one. At 15, all I ever really wanted to do was be a dad, funny enough. And that was my goal. And it's been really interesting because my entire work life has been focused around that. That's why I became a consultant. So I had that time and energy. It's why I'm involved with my kid right now, working and traveling the world, because I absolutely just love expanding her horizons and being a part of watching her grow into this young, incredible adult that wants to give back. And I think that is my definition of success. We came into this planet, and the idea is, how do I make this world a little bit better than when I came in? And if I'm able to expand both of my daughters' perspectives to give back to this world, scale that giving in a way that changes lives, that is where success lies for me. And obviously, the businesses that we do that we're passionate about those, and it's giving back and really setting that stage. So that's my passion and my desire and my probably definition of success.
Okay, next generation.
I would say Fritz, mine is a little bit twofold. Obviously, as a young entrepreneur, I love this lifestyle I live, and I love getting and being involved as a CEO, as a co-founder. And so I think from a business side, there's obviously the success of both of these businesses, but I think from a personal side, it's funny, we had a call the other day with a potential intern and we explained what we were doing. And you could see the spark in her eyes when we said, you get to actually do all these things that you need to do to get to that 2-year goal of developing her own company. And the passion and the energy that all of a sudden was enlightened within her it was such a cool feeling to experience. And I've involved other friends, and our head of HR, for instance, is traveling to Guatemala next week. And, he's still involved in this. And the fact that they get to do that, and I can see that passion, that excitement, and I get to share my love for travel, my love for entrepreneurship with my peers and get to work side by side with them. At the same time, get to learn and work with your guys' generation, because I think this dual side of mentor mentee and the power that my dad and I have between his knowledge and his experience and then my innovation and the young side is so cool. And I think just being able to spread that knowledge and shift how organizations are run and start to get this mindset into the next generation, as Eric said, but my next generation that's going to be coming in and working and leading these companies that's my version of success, and seeing the impact that has on people and organizations across the globe.
Okay, thank you for sharing.
And I've got to add one more thing in, Fritz, and I apologize for interrupting here, but that last point she brought in is such an incredible aspect of, I think sometimes we think we've learned everything and we just want to give back. I can't tell you how much I've learned from this next generation, from working with Sasha, from meeting these individuals from a younger age. And it's taken a lot of vulnerability on my side to realize that maybe I don't know what's going on, in as fully as I thought I did. And it's been so much fun to be able to be a part of and learn and engage with this next generation of kids.
That's actually a very important lesson to learn, to share with this audience of this podcast, I would assume. Hey, I just want to know, are there any, has it been a bumpy road? Have there been some failures where you feel, okay, this went utterly wrong and we had to change course, redo stuff, anything?
Yes, very, very much so. Um, there have been a lot of ups and downs, and when the first go around, Eric and I both came back, and the original company we'd worked for, as we mentioned, due to those problems, actually was scaling back. Eric and I came back without jobs, and obviously that's common in the consultant world, and we kind of had to take a shift and go, what are we gonna do, and cut back a little bit, and we then spent kind of the next 2 years, and we had the pleasure of getting involved with the Intralliance Foundation, Fritz, which you were a part of, which gave us, such an incredible network of people. And in the development of our business, I would say the number of times we've pivoted in the last 2 years,
Mm.
I don't even know if I can count. And we have this idea, we get feedback, we present it to some people, and we say, all right, this isn't quite fitting yet. How can we change this? And it's been this really cool process of Eric and I letting go of, I would say, our egos, of being like, wait, no, this is our idea. This is where we want to go, and saying, what does the market need? What do we actually want to do, and where is this going to be successful? And being able to pivot overnight and say, nope, this isn't going to work. Let's go down a new path. And we've done that so frequently, but I think we finally kind of gotten to the point where it's been a really slow grow and a really slow process over the last kind of 2 years. But we've gotten to this point that because we pivoted so much, we've gotten so much market feedback, we've talked to so many people, that we finally started to dial this in. But we want to keep that mindset of always being like, I think that in this environment, in this market, when things are evolving so exponentially quickly, that you have to be on your toes. You have to be able to evolve and move very quickly. And so it's been
Yeah.
up and down every day.
Fail fast, fail often. It's an agile approach to development of your product and services. So
Yeah.
those mistakes. A friend of mine qualifies fail as a first attempt in learning. And
Yes.
he actually founded the Institute of Brilliant Failures, Professor Paul Liska. And that's actually what I'm hearing you say as well. Those failures are not real failures, but they offer you an opportunity to pivot and take the next step.
Exactly.
Unfortunately, I'm going to take the final step in this interview, and that is, I just want to share your insights, your thoughts on what you would like to advise young people, young managers out there starting their own journey. What would your best advice be? I'll start with Eric, and then I'll end with Sasha.
I think jump in and go, because I think we get very trapped in what society wants us to be. Our insecurities dive into that, and I've got to be successful, I've got to make money, I've got to go to the office. You get in that rat trap, and it just continues, and you become part of it. And I'm not saying some people are very happy in that, and each to his own. But I would say, if you're not, jump. It's everybody says, oh, do what you're passionate about, the money will come. I'm not sure that's exactly going to work all the time, but I can guarantee you're going to be a happier person in life, because this world is so big. There's so many people out there. There's so much opportunity, and there's so much more that we can do for each other, that I would say jump in and just go, because that's the hardest part of it. But once you do, we've had people talk to us about, oh, how would you even go, about being a digital nomad? Go. Just go overseas and start it, because once you're there, the opportunities that open up are mind-boggling, and it will happen. And God forbid, from my perspective, stop the focus on money. Money comes and it goes, and it just is not it's not the answer. And I'm a huge believer in go experience the rest of this world, because it is so big and so beautiful and so wonderful, and so many great people. So I would say jump in and go.
Jump in. Sasha, you definitely jumped in. Any additional advice?
I did. It was funny. I was actually going to say something very similar, but say yes and follow your passion. I've had incredible opportunities from just having someone say, "Hey, you want to go here?" And I said, "Yep, let's do it." My dad saying, "Let's start a business." Yes, let's do it. And so say yes, be open to the learning opportunities, the growth, the fear, embrace it all, because it's all part of that journey. And yeah, say yes and go.
Hey, guys. Hey, I want to thank you so much for sharing your insights, your experience, your best practices of being true digital nomads in this world. And hopefully people will learn from this. As Eric said, jump in the deep end and be passionate about what you're doing. And eventually you'll get there. That's my lesson learned from talking to you guys. And it was my pleasure. And it was fun to have this interview with you guys. Thanks.
Thank you, Fritz. It is always a pleasure seeing you, by the way, and communicating with you. We've enjoyed our time together.
Thanks, Fritz.
Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.